everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners and Beyond. Today we're going to have a little look at creating shape with our characters and how we can gently shade them up to make them look three-dimensional. Give them more of a wow factor, if you like, or hopefully. We'll see how we get along. I'm using an extra small spoon shader at the minute on setting 3, but I probably will be switching away from this pen as it was just a trial yesterday to see how this pen would perform. So we're going to have a little look at this arm together. Hopefully you can see this arm well enough. I will zoom in anyway on the camera. But what we're looking at here is obviously the main body, the chest, is coming across the front, and then we have the arm obviously at the side. Now what we want to look for is where there's less light coming from and blend our shading out from the darkest point out into the light and create this sort of shape of what an arm would be shaped like. So I'm going to switch away from this and I'm going to go to the extra small space shader. If you just bear with me a second. Let's get rid of that spoon shader because it's not going to be the pen for the job. Let me find where I put it. I have that many pens. I'm just going to have to bear with me 1 second. Okay, I've located the extra small space shader. I've got quite a few pens, so it takes a moment to find them sometimes. I am getting my art studio kindly tidied up by my family today. They're coming to help me sort out studios. I'm just going to give this extra small space shader a little bit of a clean on my leather strap, which is here. So I'm just going to give it a quick rub over. There's bits of polish down on my strap, and I'm just going to give the pen a bit of a clean. Get any carbon deposits off the pen. So we're running at setting 3 with this pen, which will be quite hot for such a small surface area, so we may have to adjust the pen. So what we're looking to do here is come from the darkest area, which is going to be tucked right underneath the body of Captain America. And this is where that blending from lesson 1 comes into play. Now when I'm doing projects like this, I like to take my time with my shading. I don't rush in. I let it build gradually and let it form, so I can truly get a feel for the depth that I want to portray. So we're working from the darkest area and we're pulling up in the direction that we want to go, which is obviously upwards, because it's not a flat arm, so all the shading wants to move in this upwards direction. This does have a little crease in it there, which I will add in a moment, which will be a little darker area, but that will be blended in. Looks like this crease actually goes a bit further. It goes somewhere off round there. That'll be blended in a minute. So the more we work this darker area, the deeper we can push, you know, the arm back, because we want the arm to be sat obviously further back than this main part of the chest. The only thing I find with the extra small space shader is it can blob on you quite easily. If you lift that pen off for just that fraction too long, it can blob. So really it's one of them that you could do with maybe being at under 3. I've just turned the heat down a touch, just because I want to get it under my control fully. I don't want to be leaving blobs. If I raise the pen off the wood for a minute, I don't want to touch down and get a blob spot. I'm sure a lot of you know what the dreaded blob is. I'm sure you've all encountered the dreaded blob. I know I have, many times. And you can either, if you're lucky, it's in a dark area that you're going to be shading up dark and you can blend around it, or it's a case of getting sandpaper out when you get the blob. Not ideal. So this patterning in this arm is sat actually a little lower than the leather outfit, so we can add a touch of shading here and round off a little. Just bear with me a second, guys. Okay, sorry about that. so this is going to be sat a bit lower. Let me just blink at my eyes, focused. So up here, as the arm moves round, we can add that little bit more depth, because you're going to see more from the angle that we're on this side of the arm. You would see more of the like raised suit above this stripe. So for now we can just block in darker there. So this is very much a feel exercise. As we start doing this side, and I said I really like to work over and over an area, layering, really pushing that heat deep into the wood. Pat from the Optima could tell you about the complexities of wood, how it's got special properties where you can, like much like tattoo art, you can get to different layers within the wood to show greater depth and different effects. I can't remember them. He did tell me them one conversation a few years ago. I can't remember them. So let's bring the shading of the far side of this arm into view as well. Now if you remember, we always say about a clean edge to value, which means everything we do, even Captain America here, his suit will have a perfectly clean edge. So we will need to tighten up all this area on the edge of the suit. And so what I would do to do that is I would be darkening off the shield. You'll have to forgive that bit of pink there. That was when I spilt some water on my reference photo and it dyed it pink, like the idiot I am. But everything has a clean edge to value. I can turn the heat up a little for this, because I want this shield area behind the arm to be darker, to really make this arm sit forward from it. I know we've digressed a little here, but this is another key area, this clean edge to value. And then what I'll do, I'll blend all that darkness out in time, but that will be darkened up, and so this arm is sharp. Turn that heat back down to 2.5. So if you think about when the arm goes off in the other direction. It comes up, over, doesn't it, and then round. So again, if I turn my board upside down so I can get at this, make sure I've got you on camera this time, because I know my camera work has been a bit rubbish. I can then come at this from the opposite way to what I did on the other side. I will be pushing this area darker and blending out so I can show that raised area of this fabric above this one, because this one just steps down that little level, only a fraction. If you were to measure it in reality, it'd only be, I suppose, a couple of millimeters or whatever, but it can make the difference with setting multi-level art. I'm hoping to shade past this pink. What I don't want to do is I don't want to go too far. Again though, this strap is going to sit inside this piece of uniform. Let's just gently work our way. Let's turn it back round. And we'll start to really smooth out and blend the shading off, so it's not patchy or blotchy, if you know what I mean. We want it all to be a nice even tone. We know where our highlight is going to be, on the crest of the turn. As the arm comes up, there'll be a highlight area, then it'll drop off. So obviously the highest point we will leave lightest, which will then give the eye the perception that that is a higher area, if you like. That's the peak of the arm, if you know what I mean. We'll have a look at this area as well in a second. But that's a gist of what we're trying to do there. You know, we're going to turn that heat down and then layer up and find that perfect shade that will cause that effect of the arm to curl round from the dark going up and round. So we'll work this arm next. Okay, let's tackle this other part of the arm. Still using the medium spear shader, heat 3, which is a medium high for this pen because of the small surface area of the pen. And what I'm looking to do with this is I'm looking to try and curl it round from, you know, where it'll fold off into nothing where you can't see it. I'm trying to bring it to curl it round to give that effect that it's coming round from the darkness and out into the light. I may need to turn this pen down a little. Well, it's saying that it was at 2.5, wasn't at 3. But when I'm doing things like this, I really like to get the heat down and layer my shading so I can find that perfect tone. Because I find personally you can't get there all at once. You know, you need to gradually layer up and layer up, and you will find it eventually, that tone. So we know this arm is like wrapping up and over, and this is really like the side of the arm. So this bottom bit really needs to get pushed deep. But we need to keep always like sort of building up the shading, you know, up this would be up the side of the arm, wouldn't it? Up this, if you think on the inside bit, this would be the, like where your tattoos and that normally would sit. Think about under here, it's going to be really dark because of the body is going to affect the shading there, isn't it? It's going to make it darker still as it tucks underneath the chest. This shield will need to go darker. Which we will do shortly. But let's just try and build this up first. Now I'm not going on a really loopy angle at the moment because this part isn't so loopy. It's pretty much just up on that sort of angle. You know, so I'm not trying to really bend this over, I'm just trying to build it up. But I also want that slight bit of curvature. I'm always working on the angle that I'm trying to show. You know, my strokes are always going in the direction. Remember, the first touchdown is the darkest spot because when you lift that pen off for that second, you are going to build heat back into the pen. And so you want to touch, if you're doing a really light shaded area, you don't want to touch down and get a dark spot in there, do you? So you touch down first in your darkest areas and you keep building. And we'll just work this bit for a second and see how we can get the effect. And of course, when we get to that sort of a finish line with this piece, we will darken up everything, you know, a bit more than what it is now, because people like to see wood burning art that's darker for some reason. You know, they're not into the more, like, you know, lighter, delicate shaded stuff. They like to see, you know, dark contrasts and stuff. So it will be darkened up, but to start with, I want to find where those areas are, and it'll look like in here there was a crease. I'm going to go ever so lightly in that in a minute. I'm not really going to mess with that much at the moment. Let's darken this star off. I'm going to turn my heat up on this extra small space shader to 4, and I'm going to darken up this star behind it. Remember that clean edge to value that we always speak about? There's got to be a clean edge to value round the superhero's clothing. Doesn't come all fuzzy and blotchy, does it? You know, everything has to have a clean edge. And I'll blend this out in a minute on this shield. Just get the clean edge though first. I think I did put some clean edge in down this side yesterday, but just making sure I've still got you on camera. My camera work has been a bit poor. I mean, this is a really high heat setting for this pen, but I want to really push this shield back. I need to keep my ridges, my ridge lines. So you really now need to swing the board around to get at this bottom one. Because this is an important bit as well, just them little corners. You know, that'll just go underneath that piece of clothing. See how hot this pen's burning at 4 really dark strokes. They're not easy to control, and the way I like to layer shading, it's very hard on these high heats. But I'm going to try and leave a little bit of light showing on the shield, just a touch. Just a little glimmer of sheen. need to darken this up to give that contrast, to bring this arm forward and bring the body forward as well. Hope you all enjoyed the thunder and lightning storms yesterday. It's not as humid this morning, is it? It was pretty good. Really lashed it down, didn't it, last night? And with some good lightning and thunder down here in the, well, up here, should I say, in the northwest of England. I'm just quite lucky I didn't go out wild camping last night. So we've darkened that area off a little for now, but it's going to need more work. Let's switch back round. Turn that heat way back down. Now remember to get the heat out sometimes, instead of putting it on a block, just go to your darkest area again, work it for a second, and that will suck all the heat out of the pen. I'm looking to try and get a clean edge to this. We know it's going to be its darkest around the back, so we can get a clean edge going there with a line coming down where it's a clean edge to value. Try and get a clean edge in here as well. And then once you put that clean edge in, shade from it, you know, you will get proficient enough with your pen where you'll be able to touch down right next to it. I know that this makes it look easier, but it's just practice with your pen. And then this area here also, it's curling on a different angle, isn't it? It's coming, wrapping up and over. This is a different height. Here's darker, which we'll have to show more, but this one is coming up this way, coming that way. Coming pretty much straight up from underneath, and then wrapping round. There's also a little fold in there. So I'm just ever so gently layering, finding that shade that I want. Well, that's not its final shade and tone, but I'm starting to see a picture in my mind's eye. I need to just knock this pen up just a touch, to just under 3. With that clean edge to value, so right under there will be, as it drops away underneath, so we're not going to see it. You know, that's where it's going to be its darkest. But these are all the things you're thinking about. Now we know this piece does sit higher than this one, so the shading contrast, this has got to be lighter than that one, and they are going to be shaded much more yet. You know, I'm going to really darken them off, but I just want to give you a sort of a few pointers as to what you're looking to do when you want to shade something that looks more three-dimensional. And how you can achieve it. Remember, it can't go as dark as the star, because the star has to be pushed further back than it. So if you do go nearly somewhere as dark as this on here, then this is going to have to go darker still to give that contrast of it being deeper. So everything you do affects everything else. Under here it's just going to be so dark because it's right tucked up under that chest area. Let me see how long I've been going for. My eyesight, so I've got 16 minutes. I'm going to go for another 5 with you. I don't want to go too long because I know it bores people if I keep waffling on for hours, which I could do about pyrography because I love it so much. I've got such a passion for it that I could just keep going and talking about what I'm doing and what my mind is thinking while I'm trying to create these pieces of art. Sometimes you can use the side of your pen if you're proficient enough. The extra small space shader isn't as good as the medium for flicking with the side of the pen, I've found. The extra small space shader works best at low heats. You know, it's a fine detail sort of pen. Now I'm going to swing round for a minute. Let's see if I can mix it up so that you're on camera properly. I'm going to swing round for a second because I want to get at this from this side. Hopefully you can still see me on the camera. Do want to add that dark contrast to this crease. And we know inside the crease there's going to be less light in there as it dips into it. You can see how I've still got that fuzz line there. See that fuzz line? That's no good. That's got to go. It's not a clean edge to value really. It's fuzzy. It's got to be tight. So that will have to be tightened up. That's no good, that gap. pull my strokes from this direction. Same difference as the other way. Just now I've got the board upside down, if you like. Sometimes switching your board the other way up can give you a whole different perspective on the shading and the shape. So there's that other crease in here, which we can get in. So inside the crease will be its darkest. We'll really tighten that off, and there's a word, I can't think of it. You know, when extenuate it or something. Accentuate, that's the one, something like that. This other side is obviously coming on a different angle. It's coming over, isn't it? Coming wrapped round from the other side of the arm. There's going to be a high point where where it is lightest, where the top of the arm is. So everything shades like from dark to lighter, leave a light patch, darker to lighter, maybe leave a light patch, and that will give like the illusion of the more shape. But your mind will take you there as you shade on these low heat settings. You will just start to see more and more depth. And I could sit for hours even just tackling one arm, you know, to capture those perfect shades. Well, this was actually a shade lower than this top arm. That pink paint doesn't help, does it? That put down when I spilt water on my transfer, like the clumsy idiot I am. Okay, so we'll leave that there, and I will just put a bit of time lapse in of me just shaping this part of the arm up, and hopefully it will, you know, just show you how it comes to life. Okay, so I shall switch over to time lapse in a moment. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all very much. I hope that some of the things I go on about in my talking, I hope they help at least just one pyrographer, just one, you know, on their journey to understanding shading and values and clean edges and all that magical stuff. Okay, so happy pyroing, and I shall see you all soon. Get ready for time lapse hitting you now. Bye for now.